David Corenswet nearly teared up mid-prank when an emotional fan shared his heartfelt Superman story during a BuzzFeed interview. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. During what was supposed to be a standard promotional interview on BuzzFeed UK for James Gunn Superman, David Corenswet and the filmmaker teamed up to hilariously prank an unsuspecting superfan-turned-interviewer. The setup. Gunn is feeding absurd lines to Corenswet through an earpiece. We all know that Gunn has a history of hilarious moments and chaotic pranks, but this one might top them all. His unpredictable sense of humor carried the whole thing as they spiced up the interview with his improv lines. Even though Corenswet was fully committed, things got really weird, really soon. Would you believe that Superman star, David Corenswet, nearly broke down in tears because James Gunn pulled a prank? But it's not for the reason you'd expect, and the actor wasn't personally affected by it. It's just that he simply couldn't handle the heartfelt sincerity of an interviewer. It just shows how fans can be so lovely and generous at times, that even actors of Corenswet's caliber get close to breaking their character. So let's look at how this all played out, the punches that Gunn pulled, and how our new Man of Steel almost gave up midway. At one point, he even claimed that Rachel Brosnahan would blame her flatulence on Nicholas Hoult while they were on set. And Corenswet kept insisting he was a funny guy, till it all became unbearably awkward. He also gave a fan bait, talking about Superman's ending, claiming how the titular hero dies in the end. For starters, Corenswet began by saying how he couldn't stop sniffing his fingers because they smelled of gum, and said he loved to touch just random pieces of chewed gum on the ground, ew. Things quickly escalated to him dropping odd tidbits like sleeping with bleach on his nose so he can smell it all night. While most prank victims would understandably freak out at the weird things Corenswet was saying, Law was composed, sincere, and professional. And to the actor's credit, he did acknowledge that moment and appreciated Law, before being pulled back into the bit and repeating that he just wanted to be a fun guy. When the truth was revealed and the tension snapped, Corenswet said how he almost started crying amidst the prank because he was so touched by Law's words. Gunn's chaotic energy, Corenswet's commitment and sensitivity, as well as Law's grace under pressure, made this interview a highlight of their press tour. James Gunn was in David Corenswet's ear, telling him to say goofy things like how he was mocked by the cast of Superman for being too serious, and how he just wanted to be perceived as a happy-go-lucky person who is hilarious. But throughout it all, BuzzFeed's Jude Law was being really sweet and comforting towards Corenswet. He wasn't just any journalist, but a huge Superman fan who laid out his own life story to make Corenswet feel better because he thought the actor was having some sort of emotional breakdown. Law told Corenswet how he was removed from school, dreamt of being an actor, and then found his path as a writer, and how sitting across Superman himself was such a milestone moment for him. James Gunn's Superman features a 12-minute dialogue scene that became his favorite moment, offering emotional depth rarely seen in superhero movies. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Speaking with Josh Horowitz, James Gunn addressed his unprecedented 12-minute talking scene between Lois Lane and Clark Kent. During the discussion, the filmmaker revealed that the scene had barely changed from the time he first wrote it. According to Gunn, the final version used in the movie is almost exactly the same as the one they screen tested. Perhaps a few lines or two were trimmed, but the overall structure, dialogue, and shots stayed true to the original idea. That alone shows how confident he was in this scene. Now, what made that scene even more interesting is how James Gunn treated both characters equally. He didn't just make Superman the obvious hero or Lois the one who's always right. Instead, he made sure both characters had valid arguments. In that scene, he made Lois Lane stand for truth and practicality, while Clark Kent focused on the value of life and doing the right thing. These are two very different yet important ways of seeing the world, and Gunn wanted both to be respected in the scene. Part of that also shows just like how each of these characters comes across in the scene. I mean, when I wrote the scene and I look at the scene myself, I see both their points of view. I see Lois's point of view. I see, his point of view. She's talking about truth and he's talking about life, right? Both important values and both their key important values in their lives. James Gunn shared that when he watches the scene, he sees both sides clearly. He agrees with both of them at different moments, and that's what makes the scene work so well. Lois questions the consequences of Superman's actions, whereas Clark believes that saving lives in the moment is always the right thing to do. In a world where superhero movies are often filled with punches and explosions, James Gunn flipped the script, literally. His newly released Superman film isn't just packed with epic battles and alien threats, it also features a 12-minute conversation. Yes, just a raw, dialogue-heavy discussion between Lois Lane and Clark Kent. No action, just a deep dive into truth, morality, and the meaning of life. It's the kind of creative risk that most superhero directors don't dare to take. However, for James Gunn, it became not only a standout moment in the film but also his personal favorite. During an interview with Josh Horowitz, Gunn admitted this talking scene was the biggest gamble of the movie, because superhero fans aren't used to sitting still that long unless a city is crumbling. Josh Horowitz asked, "What was the biggest risk you took creatively?" James Gunn responded, "The biggest risk I took was putting a 12-minute talking scene in a superhero movie. There's just no doubt. It's fantastic. It's probably my favorite scene in the film. If I haven't seen it as many times as I have, and if I ever have to see it again, I'll jump out that window. So let's check out what makes it so special." Because, as per Gunn, it's the most honest, nuanced, and surprisingly human scene throughout the movie. And not to mention, the director also cited this heavy conversation as the loudest moment in his superhero movie. Further into the conversation, James Gunn admitted that while both Lois Lane and Clark Kent make strong points, most people naturally agree with Superman. After all, Clark represents our moral compass. He believes saving lives is the top priority, even if it means rushing in without knowing all the details. By letting both characters speak their minds and showing their perspectives honestly, James Gunn brought out a rare emotional depth in his superhero movie. He wasn't interested in who was right or wrong. He wanted to show a real debate between two smart, passionate people who care about doing what's best. In the scene, we can see how she questions Superman's methods, wondering if his actions might actually lead to more harm than good. Her thinking is based on real-world consequences, not just good intentions. This is what makes the conversation more balanced and believable. Through this debate, Gunn gave us a fresh look at Superman. This view is inspiring, and it reflects the kind of hero people look up to. But James Gunn also pointed out that this mindset can sometimes be too simple. That's why he had to carefully adjust the scene during editing. He didn't want Superman to feel one-dimensional. So, he made sure Lois's voice remained strong and logical. Instead of making him the flawless symbol of hope, James Gunn portrayed Clark Kent as a bit rash. David Corenswet's character is shown as he acts quickly, driven by emotion and the desire to help. Meanwhile, Lois is sharper and thinks more strategically. And that's how Gunn portrayed two sides of humanity, both right and relatable. She's being practical and all, but in our eyed.